On paper, Norway's military looks small. A tiny country on the edge of the Arctic, with a population smaller than many American cities, a handful of jets, a modest number of ships, and far fewer soldiers than the United States. But if size were the only thing that mattered, this story would be over already. And yet, year after year, some of the toughest troops from the United States and other NATO countries fly to Norway to train in conditions they can't easily find at home. They go there to suffer, to freeze, to push their limits, and to learn. Because inside NATO, Norway has slowly earned a reputation as one of the strongest, small militaries in the alliance. In this video, we're going to look at why that is. How can a small Arctic nation with a limited budget and a relatively small number of troops become so important that even a superpower like the United States treats it with deep respect? What does Norway do differently? And what does that reveal about the way Norway and the USA think about war, defense, and the cold, unforgiving reality of the North? Before we dive in, imagine this. It's the middle of winter. The sun barely rises above the horizon. The temperature is well below freezing, and the wind coming off the fjord cuts straight through whatever you're wearing. In front of you, a column of soldiers moves silently across the snow on skis, pulling pulks loaded with heavy gear. Their faces are calm. Their breath steams in the air. This is just another training day. For many of them, this kind of environment is nothing unusual. They grew up in it. The snow, the ice, the mountains, the short daylight, and the long dark nights are part of their normal life. Now imagine being a Marine or a soldier flown in from a much warmer climate. Maybe you're used to deserts, jungles, or temperate forests. Suddenly you're here in Norway, and the cold is not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. If you make a mistake, you don't just feel foolish. You can lose fingers, toes, or your life. That is where Norway's strength begins, in the environment itself. Norway is not a large country in terms of population, but it has a massive amount of harsh, rugged terrain. Mountains, valleys, and fjords shape almost everything about daily life, and they shape the military too. Instead of trying to build a giant army that can be everywhere, Norway has focused on something else, building a force that is extremely good at operating in its own backyard. That may sound simple, but in military terms, it's powerful. Because Norway's backyard is one of the most strategically important and physically demanding regions on Earth. Think about where Norway sits on the map. It stretches far into the north, hugging the Arctic Circle and beyond, looking across the Barents Sea toward Russia. It controls critical sea lanes that lead from the Arctic into the North Atlantic. Submarines, patrol aircraft, and warships pass through this space. In any serious conflict involving NATO in the north, Norway becomes a front line. That reality has shaped Norway's defense thinking for decades. The country knows it cannot win a long, drawn-out war by itself against a larger power. So instead, it has built a military that is designed to be fast, resilient, and deeply integrated with its allies. This is where the comparison with the United States becomes interesting. The US military is built for global power projection. It can deploy troops, ships, and aircraft almost anywhere in the world. It has bases across multiple continents, carrier strike groups in multiple oceans, and the largest defense budget on the planet. Norway, by contrast, has no ambition to patrol the world. Its ambition is to make sure that if anything threatens its territory, especially in the Arctic, it will be incredibly hard to move against Norway without paying a very high price. One of the main reasons Norway is taken so seriously is its mastery of cold weather and Arctic warfare. It is one thing to fight in good weather, on roads, in familiar conditions. It is something else entirely to operate in deep snow, on icy slopes, in darkness, with equipment that can freeze, batteries that die faster, and vehicles that struggle to move. Norway has turned this harsh reality into a kind of classroom. Its soldiers learn how to survive and fight in conditions that can break unprepared troops in a matter of hours. Norwegian units train to move quickly over snow using skis and specialized vehicles. They learn how to build shelters, manage their clothing to stay dry, prevent frostbite, and keep weapons functioning in extreme cold. They practice navigation when visibility is low and the sun hardly appears. They rehearse how to fight when simply staying alive is a challenge. These skills may not sound glamorous compared to cutting-edge technology, but they are exactly the kind of skills that make the difference when the environment itself becomes an enemy. This expertise is so valuable that other NATO countries, including the United States, routinely send troops to Norway to learn from Norwegian instructors and to experience these conditions for themselves. For some American units, especially Marines and Special Operations Forces, training in Norway is a chance to sharpen their edge in an environment they rarely see at home. The cold, the deep snow, the remote training areas, these are all part of what makes Norway an unofficial school for Arctic warfare inside NATO. If you talk to soldiers who have trained there, you often hear the same kinds of stories. Stories of long nights in tents where the cold feels like it is seeping into your bones. Stories of patrols where the snow is so deep that every step feels like you are climbing stairs with a heavy pack. Stories of learning simple but life-saving habits, like never sitting directly on the snow, or carefully managing layers of clothing to avoid sweating and then freezing. These lessons are not flashy, but they leave a deep impression. They turn theory into instinct, and they come from a place where the local soldiers have been doing this their whole lives. But it's not just the climate and the training. Norway has also built a defense structure that reflects its size and mindset. Unlike the United States, which relies on an all-volunteer force and a large standing military, Norway uses conscription. That means many young men and women are required to complete a period of military service. Not everyone is accepted, and the standards are high, but the result is a broader portion of the population that has at least basic military experience. Some of these conscripts go on to become career soldiers. Others take their skills back into civilian life, but remain part of the national defense structure through reserve forces or the Home Guard. The Home Guard is a particularly interesting piece of this puzzle. It is made up of people who have done their initial service and then return to civilian life but remain on call. They train periodically, stay familiar with local terrain, and can be mobilized quickly in a crisis. In many ways, they represent the idea that national defense is not just the job of a small professional group, but something that is woven into the fabric of society. For a small country, that kind of structure can make a big difference in how fast it can respond if something goes wrong. This approach creates a different kind of connection between society and the military. In Norway, the idea that ordinary people might be called on to defend their country is more visible and more personal. The country is small enough that many families know someone who has served or is serving now. That sense of shared responsibility can translate into strong support for a capable but focused military. On top of that, Norway has decided that if it cannot be the biggest, it can still be among the most modern. Instead of trying to buy everything, it invests heavily in high-quality, high-tech capabilities that fit its geography and its role inside NATO. Modern fighter jets, advanced air defense systems, capable naval vessels, coastal defense missiles, and sophisticated surveillance systems are part of this strategy. These tools allow Norway to monitor its surroundings, respond quickly, and plug smoothly into larger NATO operations when needed. This is where the relationship with the United States becomes very clear. The US provides the bulk of NATO's overall power, including nuclear deterrence, massive airlift capacity, and large-scale combat forces. Norway doesn't try to copy that. Instead, it focuses on being the best possible specialist in its corner of the world. When American and Norwegian forces train together, they bring different strengths to the table. The US brings scale and global experience. Norway brings local knowledge, Arctic expertise, and a deep understanding of the terrain and climate. Over years of cooperation, this has built a quiet but strong mutual respect. American soldiers who train in Norway quickly realize that what looks like a small military on paper can feel very big when you're out in the field. Following Norwegian troops up a mountain in the dark, in a snowstorm, carrying heavy gear, and trying to keep up. It becomes obvious that these are not just average soldiers. They are specialists in a uniquely challenging environment. Large multinational exercises in Norway make this even more visible. You might see tanks and armored vehicles from several countries grinding slowly along icy roads, fighter jets roaring overhead, and ships off the coast practicing landings and patrols. In the middle of all this, Norwegian units act as guides and hosts, showing allies where to move, how to prepare, and what to expect from the weather and terrain. On the surface, it looks like a standard NATO exercise. But under the surface, it is a demonstration of how much value a small military can bring when it truly understands its environment. At the same time, Norway knows its limits. It does not pretend that it can stand alone against every possible threat. The whole point of NATO is that countries like Norway don't have to. Instead, Norway's job is to make sure that if anything happens in the north, it has the skills, the technology, and the local knowledge to slow down, complicate, and resist any aggression until larger allied forces arrive. In this role, quality matters far more than quantity. Another subtle strength of Norway's military comes from its society. Norway is a relatively wealthy country with a high standard of living, a strong education system, and a culture that values both independence and cooperation. Those values show up in the military too. Soldiers are expected to think, not just follow orders blindly. Small unit leadership is important. Initiative in the field is encouraged. When your terrain is complex and your weather can turn dangerous, you can't always rely on perfect communication and detailed instructions from above. You need troops who can adapt on the fly. In that sense, Norway and the USA actually share something important. Both value professionalism in their forces. But where the US builds giant formations to operate around the world, Norway builds smaller, tightly focused units that can survive and operate in some of the toughest conditions on Earth. Both approaches are valid. They are just aimed at different missions. So, is Norway really NATO's strongest small military? That depends on how you define strong. If you measure strength by the number of tanks, planes, and soldiers, then of course larger countries will always appear stronger. But if you look at strength as the ability to dominate a specific environment, to control a critical region, and to offer unique skills that others do not have, then Norway's position inside NATO becomes very impressive. In the Arctic and the High North, Norway is not just another small country. It is one of the alliance's key guardians. Its coastline, its airspace, and its waters are gateways between Russia and the North Atlantic. Its bases, ports, and airfields are stepping stones for Allied operations. Its knowledge of the terrain and the climate gives NATO a serious advantage in any scenario where the cold and the darkness become part of the battlefield. Even for the United States, which could never be called a small military in any sense, Norway is a valuable partner, not just a junior ally. When American troops rotate through Norway for exercises, they are there to learn as well as to teach. They refine their own skills, test their equipment, and build relationships with Norwegian units that might one day prove crucial in a real crisis. And there is another layer to this story. In a world where technology is moving fast and where drones, cyber operations, and satellites often dominate the headlines, it is easy to forget that human beings still have to stand on the ground, in real places, with real weather, carrying real weapons. The cold still numbs fingers. The snow still slows vehicles. The mountains still block radio signals. Norway's military is a reminder that no matter how advanced your gear is, you still have to respect the land and the climate you're operating in. That is one of the biggest reasons Norway stands out. Its soldiers are not just trained to use modern equipment. They are trained to live and fight in one of the harshest regions on Earth. They understand that nature does not care about rank, flags, or budgets. It treats everyone equally. Any weakness, any laziness, any lack of preparation is punished quickly. That mindset creates toughness, discipline, and humility, all qualities that matter deeply in combat. So when we ask the question, how did Norway become NATO's strongest small military? The answer is not a single weapon system, a single unit, or a single policy. It is a combination of geography, strategy, culture, training, and alliance relationships. It is Norway's decision to lean into its strengths instead of pretending to be something it's not. It is its willingness to act as the alliance's Arctic specialist, the country that turns extreme cold into an advantage instead of a weakness. For viewers in the United States, there is something interesting to learn here too. Power is not only about being the biggest, it is also about being smart, focused, and honest about your own environment. The United States and Norway work best together when each side brings what it does best. The US brings unmatched scale and reach. Norway brings unmatched local expertise in the far north. Together, they form a combination that is far stronger than either would be alone. As you think about all this, imagine again those soldiers on skis, moving through the dim Arctic light. The snow crunches softly under their boots. Their breath hangs in the air. They are calm, professional, and prepared. They may come from a country with a small population, but in this environment, they are giants. If war ever came to this part of the world, these are the people you would want on your side. So what do you think? Does Norway deserve the title of NATO's strongest small military? Or do you think another country has a better claim to that role? And what surprises you most about the way Norway and the United States cooperate in the Arctic and the High North? If you found this deep dive into Norway's military role inside NATO interesting, take a moment to like this video so more people can discover it. Subscribe if you want more honest comparisons, hidden stories, and behind-the-scenes looks at how different countries prepare for the challenges of our changing world. And in the comments, tell us which matchup or country you want to explore next. Your idea might be the focus of our next video. Until then, thanks for watching.